Like, that's the thing. It is, effectively, the reason this is important is this. With sports, right, the reason you would always want to be there for a sport is for the atmosphere, right? Like, the atmosphere will be unforgettable at, like, a fucking Champions League final or something. The actual viewing experience for a sport will still be the best on your TV at home, of course. You can get all the replays, the massive action. You don't know how far away you are. But that's the thing. In Counter-Strike, at the moment, the arena's mainly, like I said in the earlier, the arena's mainly more just to give pressure to the players. It's not really that great a setup for fans. If you're not that close, you are just watching, like, essentially a screen miles away, aren't you? Like, just, it's like watching your phone, like, oh, like, in that scenario, you're not watching the best possible experience. So I agree. I don't necessarily know, again, like, we can have a whole sidebar as to what you can do or what you do. I'm actually open, like I say. I'll give carte blanche. If you're a TO and you've been really good, just start developing this stuff, because I actually think we don't know best on this. Like, I'll draw one last analogy to kind of give some goodwill to the TOs, because I normally never give any ground to Valve. But one thing I will always give Valve maximum credit for is me and almost everyone else in the Pro CS community was totally wrong about them changing the game sounds for the weapons. When they changed those weapons, we all said, like, so the PT-50 sounds so stupid. What the fuck? Silence USP, you can't even hear it. But that's an AWP. That's not an AWP. It's supposed to be... If you go back now and watch a video from 2013, Chad, you'd think it was like Guantanamo Bay version of Counter-Strike. Like, it's a nightmare when they're shooting AWPs everywhere and fucking grenades are going off and everyone's firing an AK. You're like, holy fuck, how do I turn only that sound down? I can't hear the game sounds like. It's actually outrageous. The joke is, it's just because, again, in the initial sort of adaptation period, it just felt weird. But I give it up to them completely. Now, I couldn't imagine the game with any other sounds. And if I go back, it is a million times better. So I'm open to the idea we reinvent this whole viewing experience. I think there's so much we could do with it.
You can tell who's actually played CS before 2016 because they have irreparable hearing damage.
For sure. Yeah. Between that and then every fucker who sat that close to the monitor with all the digital vibrance up, it's like, we're giving it... Guys, how have we managed to make video games like the fucking NFL, where it's like, if you keep playing long enough, you're definitely going to be irreparably damaged just to win at the game? I feel like we've gone too far here. We've gone too far here.
In terms of the other players here, this Savage kid, he's only 16. He seems pretty good. And Apoc... I know him from a long time ago, mate. Yeah. So
Put it this way, Apoc is only 4 years younger than me, if that doesn't tell you how old this motherfucker is.
He's been doing it for a long time. When I was competing as a teenager, he was like part of the best teams going international from Australia in 1.6 days and stuff. So he's a tried and tested, like, Australian Counter-Strike veteran, you know. So other than that, right, it's difficult to tell people to get excited, but I would say it's a positive that they've been in Europe now, I think, for almost 2 months.
2 months. I'm looking at their match history right now. By the way, they've already played in Tropic. I don't know if we're going to see that matchup, but they got 16-0'd on their own map pick, and they got 6 rounds on Ancient because they started CT side. So
okay.
Yeah, look, it's going to be pretty fucking grim. Let's be honest about it.
They're already stealing his fucking swag, getting all the 16-0s in as soon as they come over and fucking what. Do something original, will you? Fucking
took a couple years before.
That too. It took a while. Yeah, it took a while. The thing about you, Chad, is this: it's not even like it's the end of the world to get 16-0, but it's just the fact that you actually did that, like. It's when you did that famous rant right before it, like, about all the analysts or whatever. Like, yeah, unfortunately, you did. Listen, the universe just gave you that one. You just brought that on yourself, unfortunately. Like.
The problem is, because it was the iBuyPower LAN, and then, like, literally the next day going into RGN in the exact same venue. It didn't matter at the RGN LAN. We made it to the grand final and played against.
Yeah, sure.
Because nobody fucking remembered that. You know, it's like, oh man, look, it's a funny story. So
it's a great story. Listen, it's like when I did a tweet. I haven't deleted it. I'm not a coward. The tweet's still up. I did do a tweet right before the Boston Major final where I just said, all right then, if any of you really believe Cloud9's going to win this shit, just say it now, you cowards. And then obviously, look, a lot of people have replied after the fact, believe it or not, Chad. Can you imagine that? It's weird, that, isn't it? I guarantee that probably has 500 fucking reply tweets right now if I go and look. So, listen, it's pretty funny, you know. Yeah. It's a classic banter to get wrecked completely by my own petard, as it were, right?
We're going to be the entertainers one way or another.
Yeah. By the way, just as an aside, like, listen, this doesn't mean it's a fact. It was just a statement by one of the people involved. So certainly should consider there'll be a level of bias. Doublelift himself, when he did his video where he explains what's happening, which if you've ever watched them, by the way, look like someone just being interrogated who has no clue what the questions are before. Because it's so obvious that, listen, I've interviewed this guy many times. I can tell when someone's actually, like, you know, saying what they've thought about and it's something like repeated or if they're just making it up off the top of their head. Like, he just wings together excuses. His excuse was hilarious, Rich, because it makes it go right back into the territory territory of parody, where when he described the pallet guy, the one you're referring to, the other support, the Vietnamese support who was part of Gigabyte Marines back in the day, basically he said something along the lines of, like, I actually think he's really good. In fact, I'm the one who suggested him, but I didn't want to play with him because he doesn't have very good English. It's like, mate, you're all over the place. Fucking hell, mate. Like seriously, you're like an anti-agent to your own career. What is this? Like, this entire roster is an absolute clusterfuck, I think. Like, I know people are kind of hyped because they're like, oh, but what if this, that, and the other? It's like, put it this way, right? Inexperienced coach, and even worse, by the way, probably the most unfireable coach right now. Then secondly, you've got a lineup of players where I don't think, never mind being the best, not only are none of these players going to be the best at their role, I don't even know if half of them end up being top 3 at their role. So bearing in mind, it's TSM for fuck's sake. I made this point before when I said about how I don't want to hear that Bjergsen's a sick coach and knows all shot calling and stuff. Mate, all they did in his rosters, where possible, was ram talent, just individual talent, into the different spots. And they still never had any fucking macro, like, ever, basically. They were the ones who played, like, that's the joke of why Reginald should never be in those fucking rooms on those documentaries. Motherfucker, I watched your whole career. You were the moron who thought win lane, win the game was a thing, like, to now. You think it's a thing now in, like, 2021? Like, if that was true, like, how could RNG ever lose to fucking G2 or something? Like, it could never happen, could it, you idiot? So, I think that it's just such a weird roster, because I don't really know how to get hyped about it. Like, I haven't got an in. Even if I like a player like PoE, like, where's my in here? Like, how, like, listen, PoE isn't like a fucking 1v9 player. He's not going to hard carry the game, is he? Like, to some degree, you need the team to be good, and then it enables him to carry. Like, I don't see where you get hyped on this one, and I'll just say this right now. I'm probably going to do a whole separate video on this because it deserves its own like 20-minute rant with all straight fire analogies. What the fuck is the obsession with the LCS orgs in all having to have Huni at some point in history? Have I missed something? That was fucking 6 years ago! What is this? Dude, people are acting like he's like prime Michael Jordan, like we got to get him. Oh my god, Huni's available. Yeah, look, why do you think he's available every year, you dumb fuck? What? Because no one wants him anymore. It's like, Huni's like some fucking super hot girl at the bar who's got a terrible personality. You've already slept with her, you idiot. After you've done that, you have to experience a personality. Yeah, the next guy's going to get tricked. He hasn't slept with her yet, has he? Like, fucking hell, the Huni equation's killing me.
But, I mean, that's something that we've all... Like, I mean, I'll tell the story. And Duncan, you're involved in this. And I mean, obviously, this is... you know, I guess it's in a way my story to tell was MLG Columbus when I'd had some like criticism on social media and Reddit about me, and so I was already a little bit sensitive. And Duncan or Richard, I don't remember which one it was, probably both of you motherfuckers, made some.
We used
kind
to
of
go hard back in the day.
Some kind of a comment on the desk, and we got back into the green room, and like I at some point, like on the walk back to the room, I just snapped, like something just broke, and we make the joke, we like every major, there's one person in the group who has their freak out. You know, it's going to happen.
Yes, of course.
Once a major, and MLG Columbus happened to be mine. And I remember just getting back into the green room, me, Duncan, Richard, and there was probably 3 other people in there. And I was just like, I just turned to them like, Liz, you guys really have to fucking stop doing this shit. Like, I'm just sick of it. I'm done with it. And we didn't, like, Duncan and I didn't talk for like 2 days after that. And like, we were doing death segments together, but we didn't talk outside of death segments. And I know, like, I mean, a
little bit awkward.
I went back and I apologized to Richard like 30 minutes after it, didn't accept it, and I apologized to Duncan.
Classic Richard non-acceptance of an apology.
It's so funny. Like,
it's like trying to sue for peace terms in medieval times. You know, you make the first attempt, Samler, but sometimes that guy gets killed and you have to send another guy, you know, another envoy.
I went to Richard and I was like, hey man, I just want to apologize. You know, I snapped. I went a little bit too far in the green room. Like, I didn't mean for that. Like, I don't hate you or anything like that. And he just looks at me and he goes, great, not accept. And I was like,
that's genius.
This was like my
you never expect that, do you? I know.
Yeah, I'm still pretty new. And I was just like, well, fuck. Where do we go?
That's my career tag. These are the people I'm locked in a room with for the next 4 years.
I know. But I mean, later, I think it was later that night. Like, Richard came up and he was like, "Listen, I'm sorry. Like, we'll just bury the hatchet. It's all good. Like, I understand." And I think Duncan, you came back like 2 days later and you were like, "Yeah, it's all good. We'll move on. Let's just enjoy the rest of the event." Blah blah blah. So I mean, we all have a story that we don't have to tell, obviously, but I think everyone in our group has a story of where they just snapped on someone in the other group, and we're all able to just apologize and move on. I think that's the cool part for me, is that, you know, I fucking hate all of you. You're
well, like the thing is, this was a matter of life and death. If you're gonna tell the cab story,
Yeah, well, I mean,
so you were really motivated.
I was pretty drunk at the time, but I mean, it
wasn't
nothing
new there. Apparently,
you were also Canadian that evening.
Yeah. So we ordered an Uber to go out to like a bar or a club or something at like after dinner or something along those lines, and he rolls up and he just like the first thing he says when he looks out the window, we're like, all right, yeah, we're going here, and he's like, all right, none of you are American, right? And I'm like, nope, Canadian for sure. And we get in this car, and it's like, I forget who's next to me, but Yanko's in the front seat. And Yanko is just having a conversation with this guy full on Russian the whole time. But like the thing is, when you go to Russia, like we've all seen those videos of like the Russian driving videos on YouTube.
Yes, all the accidents and stuff. Yeah.
And I thought like to a certain degree, I thought that was like the most extreme examples, but we've gotten this Uber or this cab or whatever the fuck it was. And this motherfucker is insane. He's going up on sidewalks around red lights. He's going up into like lanes that don't exist when people
crazy taxi style.
Yeah, no, literally, it was like playing.
Wait, what?
Yeah,
taxi.
this is also the thing in St. Petersburg. It's on the river and on the sea, so there's a lot of bridges and a lot of canals. So at some point, the bridges go up the raise, so you can't go over them anymore. You have to circle around all the way. So this guy was trying to get ahead of that. He was really trying to get ahead of that.
It was fucked up, dude. He was trying to like beat the timing of when the bridges go up, so he didn't have to like drive us like on a massive fucking detour. So he's going like 60 miles an hour on like a 40-mile-an-hour road, going through red lights, going on sidewalks, weaving between cars, and Yanko the whole time is just chatting with them in Russian. And I don't know what was said, but I just was sitting there and I was like, I don't want to die here in Russia.
Yanko was just saying in Russian, like, faster, let's show this pussy Yankee pig dog what Eastern Europe's all about, homie. Let's show him how we drive here.
The best thing was the driver was Ukrainian.
So the premise of this show is, see, this is actually like, this is going to give you an insight to how Monty's mind works. Like, Monty personally was having some sort of like negotiation dispute with the company. So rather than just make it like, well, I think I should be paid fairly, he was like, you know what? I am the whole world. Solipsism is actually a life philosophy. So I think the whole community and the entire scene is fucked. And let's all explain, obviously by proxy referring to my own situation, why the entire community sucks, is fucked. And I want all people who are big in other games to agree and explain why, yes, this community is fucked. Right, that's obviously a hyperbolic version of the premise, Monty, but that is the basic premise, right? You wanted to discuss the industry rates and how organizers treat freelance talent. That was the premise, right?
Yep, that's right. And fortunately, of course, it's hard to get actual people who are on salary who we are discussing here to be on this show because their companies will prevent them from actually doing that. So we're in a bit of an interesting situation, that's for sure, because it's hard to get any kind of counter perspective here.
Okay,
so I'm purely here just to take advantage of my independent status. Is that what's going on?
I think everyone's here for that, mate.
Like, all here for that. Cap quit his job. Time to pick him up here.
Yep. Now was the time. Now's the time.
Spill all the dirty esports secrets.
No, I just thought that you would be on my side for higher wages with a name like Capitalist. I just chose you based purely on your ID.
Fairly fitting, yes.
We already had a couple little talks on politics and economics a little bit already earlier in our chat, but
see, ironically, Semler actually comes from Sweden, which is a famously socialist country, but actually does not in any way. That's actually anathema to him. He doesn't believe in spreading the wealth around. He believes in the 1% accruing 99% of the wealth. Isn't that the basic premise, Semler, for your career?
All I can do is laugh at this point.
Okay.
Yes, then this is one of the factors that you have to consider when you're changing games or when you're a new commentator coming into a scene. Is the developer involved in the game? Because those guys, the developers, have so much money. When we're talking about the big companies in the space, right? If we want to be frank, if we're talking about the big companies in the space, they have so much money that they don't give a fuck. And they're going to spend it, and they're just going to fucking throw it at people. And so it's an unrealistic point of view to take, in my opinion, when it comes to commentators and budding commentators in the scene, to count on that kind of money coming their way. Because
why does everything always come back to budding commentators? Like, I don't know about you, Semler. You know my views in CSGO and Dave. I don't give a fuck about scrubs on any level. Like, unless you are really sick, get the fuck out my face. Like, I don't care if you die in fucking, like, of starvation and nothing helps.
It's true, though. It's true.
It's like the Highlander, mate. It's the quickening. There can be only one.
Earlier, tier 2, tier 3.
We're here to destroy each other.
Those guys aren't making anywhere near.
Yeah. But what about tier 1, Semler? Why am I the guy of all people? You're the guy who spent his whole career. Everyone's like, the greedy fucking Semler. Bless him. He's driving everyone on.
In the TO point of view,
okay.
The TO point of view is that a tier 1 commentator can be replaced at any time by a tier 2 commentator who will then be nurtured into a tier 1 commentator.
Okay. Right, so in the bottom right-hand corner, for some reason, don't ask me why, I don't, believe it or not, I don't even have a say in these things. We've got 2 people sharing one webcam because LS is doing that thing again where to totally avoid any sort of accusations that he secretly wants to be Asian and, like, you know, desperately wants to affect their culture, he is again literally playing the role of some sort of fucked up reverse Miyagi where he brings people out there and makes them do all sorts of weird tasks and challenges that they don't know what it has to do with League of Legends. Like, why am I learning about chess and Brood War? But when they do that, at the end, he's like, you didn't know it, but the whole time I was training you how to block, and now let's perform the crane kick. So anyway, you see where that's going. You see where that goes. So we've got LS, aka List Surrealist, because nobody can believe that shit's real, but it is. It's very real, and much like modern art, it's got some interesting ideas in there, but incredibly flawed execution in some ways that puts off a lot of the plebeians you see LS. They don't have the sort of high cultured understanding, refinement to appreciate modern art that is your opinions about League of Legends. But I enjoy them anyway. I like to give a platform to it. And then the other person in that camera shot, obviously he's going to be tiny on the actual YouTube video, is Max Waldo. Who, listen, I'm not going to lie. I had to look up on Gamepedia who the fuck this was before the episode began. Because, no, that's not even any offence. The only players I know in Academy are just failed NA talents and then Koreans that 100 Thieves insist on buying. So I just don't know anyone at the Academy level, I'm afraid. So apparently it says he was like the top laner of 100 Thieves Academy. Obviously, might have lost his job to this guy called Someday who's pretty good, so no shame there necessarily. The Beatles said they get by with a little help from their friends, but I get by with a little help from my Patreon community. And this video was kindly supported by Matt Pugnatio Rajcula, Ahmed Hadjou, Bot Pounder 420, Toucan, Animosity, Tobias Bernasconi, Jensen Goh, Tosh, and a special thanks always goes out to my main man, Jerky's Minion. Would you like to ask me a question in my monthly video AMA? Do you want teasers to find out who are the upcoming guests? Maybe you want to take part in one of those lengthy but intense esports discussions I have with my donators, or maybe you want to suggest a guest or a topic that I could cover. Well, if any of those tickle your fancy, put your money where your mouth is and join the Skrilluminati today, where in the description box below there is a Patreon link.